So today here is Matt Nelson. He's married to Stephanie Nelson, and he's here to speak about his career.
Well, I graduated from the Hallett Halls of Lakota in 1990, 25 years ago now, which blows my mind. But I guess when I was here, when I was a senior, I was really into playing music. I was in a band. I really liked farming. Really wasn't all that excited to go to college, to be honest. Kind of thought that was something I would want for the future, and I thought that was probably the right way to go. And I had a couple ideas in the back of my head. One was I really liked building things. I liked engineering things. I thought maybe mechanical engineering was something I'd like to go into. That was one idea. Then the other idea was a pilot might be an interesting career choice. I thought, it'd offer lots of opportunities to travel and good career progression. So that was my second idea. And so I enrolled in University of North Dakota, and I kind of left my options open, classes that would fit in both career paths. And once I started flying, I kind of got hooked on that and started and continued on with that. I tried to do both degrees actually, and about the middle of my junior year, I figured I'm going to be here another two and a half years if I try and do both of them. So I sort of cut that short and got more into the aeronautical science degree, and I had a minor in industrial technology. So, okay, what after that? Well, it was just a long progression to, I guess basically when I graduated college, I wanted to be a professional pilot. I wasn't sure if it was corporate or airlines, but I really kind of thought in the back of my head the airlines was the way to go. And so I was aiming toward that. However, when I got out of college, the job market for airlines was dismal. Everybody was really, really slow. The airlines were going through a tough time, and then it's a long process of building up time and experience to be able to get that first job. So I started out right in Grand Forks as a flight instructor for a new company called GFK Flight Support. They're still there now. And I did flight instruction, and then along with that, they had me jack of all trades. I worked customer service and worked in the shop and painted airplanes, and they started fuel service, so I fueled airplanes and fueled airlines and that kind of thing, kind of a little bit of everything. And I worked there my last year in college and for about a year after college. And I was building up all this time and experience, but I needed one more piece to be able to get to that airline job, and that was multi-engine time. And other people were doing it different ways. Some people would just go buy the flight time to get that multi-engine experience to get that airline job. I looked at that, and an airplane of that type was $150 to $200 an hour at the time, and I would need at least 200 hours. So I thought that wasn't really a viable option. So I kind of got creative, and I started my own business and did aerial photography for government contracts for Farm Service Agency. So we cut a hole in a 1956 Piper Apache that I leased for very cheap, and we had a cameraman and a mapper, and we went up and did one county at a time, flying back and forth to 10,000 feet, taking pictures of farmland. It was a terribly boring job, but it worked. When I got out of there, I probably made about $1 an hour doing that job, but that was worth it to me. And I got out, and at that time I probably had 300 hours of multi-engine time when those contracts got done, and over 1,000 hours of flying time. And I thought, okay, now I'm qualified, I'm ready, I'm going to be an airline guy now. And I put out all my applications, and nobody was hiring. Still the airline industry was really, really slow. So then I went to Plan B, and I applied to everyone I could think of. And I bought a publication called Trade a Plane, and they listed jobs. And so I sent a resume out to everyone I would possibly fit under, and a lot of them that I didn't. And it took about a month.
How many resumes do you think probably?
I probably did at least 50 at that time, in that round. And I just set them out there, and I didn't hear anything for a while. So I'd run out of, well, actually what had happened is they'd sold my airplane that I was using. I'd used it for those aerial contracts, and then I started flight instructing, and sort of with some non-traditional students. And I made up a curriculum where they could get they were just private pilots, and they can get instrument, commercial, and multi-engine all in one time. And it was actually cheaper than doing it at University of North Dakota, so it worked out pretty well. So some of these guys were coming to me. And that worked out fine until the guy sold the airplane that owned it. And he said, you got a month to finish everybody up, and then the airplane's moving to Brownsville, Texas. So, okay, well, now plan B. So I went and I sold auto parts, and I was a freelance flight instructor for a while. And I realized that retail work is hard work. That's so this is too hard. I don't want to do this. And so then I applied, and about a month later, I got a call from a company called Todd Flying Service in Ankeny, Iowa, just outside of Des Moines. And the guy called. I had no idea who it was because I'd sent out 40 or 50 resumes. And I guessed totally wrong. He said, no, that's not us. We fly Queen Air, Beech Queen Airs and Beech Barons, and we fly a lot of UPS freight and passenger charter out of next to Des Moines, Iowa. I said, oh, okay. Yeah, sounds good. So I took an interview down there, got the job. I moved down in the beginning of 97, January 1st of 97, and I started down there. That was probably my first intro to real flying, and I was amazed. Once you got to North Dakota, where all these people come out of the university that were trained pilots, so every semester there's all these trained pilots that'll just do anything for flight time. There's a real demand for pilots with some experience. So went down there, and most of what I started out doing was UPS had some contracts with us, so we'd fill the airplane full of boxes, and I'd fly them around Iowa, Kansas, Illinois, Nebraska, South Dakota, kind of the central United States. And I kind of learned it was trial by fire. They usually stick new guys in with freight because, well, they say boxes don't. So it doesn't matter if it's terrible weather, if it's too hot or too cold, or there's icing or thunderstorms. They don't care. Send the boxes in there. And as long as, basically, if you get the boxes where they need to go on time, they were happy about it. And then I think if you came back and the airplane was in one piece, after a while, then they'd let you fly passenger charter. So we did that. I flew a lot of doctors around. I flew a few attorneys around for a while, and then there's just a lot of business people that go around. And so I did that for a little over a year. And then, at that time, I had a little bit more flight time and a lot more multi-engine time. I think I had 2,500 hours under my belt at that time, and I thought, now I'm really, really ready for the airline deal. And so I started applying, and at that time I probably applied for 5 airlines, and I think almost immediately I got a call right back from Continental, and they wanted to schedule an interview. I said, sure, let's go do that, and went down to Houston and got a job with them. So they were, at the time, they flew the nicest, biggest equipment. I was really excited about that. They flew out of what I thought was exciting places like Newark and Houston and Cleveland. But that was exciting to me. But then I looked at their pay scale, and they were the lowest paying airline in the country too. So it was kind of a balancing act. But yeah, I went down there and I got hired on. Training was crazy. They kind of hit you with a fire hose. So it's intense, and you train for about 2 months in ground school and simulators, and then you do some aircraft training, and then they send you out on the job. And I was initially based in New York, or Newark Airport, New York City area, and lived out there for a little under a year. And I transferred to Burlington, Vermont. Was up there for about a year, and at that time we were growing really, really rapidly. So we almost doubled our size in about 2.5 years. And so I moved up the ladder really fast and was able to be a captain, had my own airplane basically, and in about a year and a half, and we moved down to Houston. So I spent about 10 years down there flying, and I did mostly airline service for Continental Airlines, and in I guess 2007, Things were changing a little bit in the industry. We got some of the airplanes cut from airline service. We needed to find somewhere to put them. So we started a charter service with a 50-seat airplane. And that was some of the most interesting time of my life. That was more, we were making up the business as we went along. I got involved with the management of that, and we started flying. We started out with basketball teams, college basketball teams, and then NASCAR teams, and then we went on to corporations used us, presidential elections used us, and we did that for about almost 4 years, and then United and Continental merged, and they said, nope, we need all those airplanes back into airline service. So I went back to work flying airlines again. I went back into training a little bit, training new pilots in. And at that time I thought, no, this just doesn't hold the same interest for me anymore after I really liked the charter end of it. And I was running back and forth, coming home to help farm in springs and falls, and that was getting more difficult when my kids were growing up. And so we decided to move back and start farming. And that's where I'm at today. That was a long answer for one question, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't know where to stop.
So I heard that you met Obama.
I did. During the 2008 elections, that was something that just popped up all of a sudden, and we flew most of the candidates at one time or another during the 2008 elections. It sort of goes in stages, so right away there's many candidates, and they each carry around their advisors and their media staff, so there's camera crews and things like that. And so we'd fill up an airplane full of, each candidate would have a full airplane full of people and a whole entourage that would go around. And starts out in Iowa, then it goes up to New Hampshire, and then, where is it, North Carolina. And so we would move them around from place to place during these primaries. And I started out, I flew John McCain once, and then I flew Mitt Romney a few times, and then I flew Obama for several days. And the time when I really got a chance to talk to him, he had given us, his advisors had called, and they, all of a sudden they needed to go to Des Moines the last night of the Iowa caucuses, and they gave us about 45 minutes. It was 10 below zero. We had all the catering out of the airplane. The airplane was all iced over, sitting there cold out in the airport. So we were still at the hotel when that happened, so we had to rush back and get everything de-iced, get everything loaded up, started running, ready to go, prepped for them. They came out, and I don't think they waited a minute, so we got them down there on time, and they were really happy about that, so we talked to them a little bit. But I will say this, he's a nice guy, but weak handshake. So I wasn't sure if he got my vote after that. But that being said, he probably shook 500 hands that day, or thousands of hands, really. So.
And was Michelle with him too at that time?
She wasn't that night. She was the previous day or two. So, yep, met her too. Or I'd said hi to her before too. Very, very nice people. And I guess the one that when we flew John McCain, I was surprised with him. He was a crabby old guy. I wasn't impressed with him at all. He seemed like he was mad the whole time. Might have had a bad day. So I don't think he was doing all that well at that time. But, yep, that's my story.
Alrighty. And how did you meet Stephanie?
How did I meet Steph? Well, after that whole deal where I was applying to everywhere in the world, and I got the call down to Des Moines, Iowa, I went down there, and I actually met her the first week I was down there, and met her through some friends of mine, or guys that became good friends of mine that I worked with at Todd Flying Service in Ankeny, Iowa. So they were friends with her, so we flew up to go see her and her friends over a weekend. I think the first weekend I was down there, and I met her then. So, and later on we started dating. And she told me that when we got sort of more serious about things, she said, yeah, that's great, but I'm never leaving Iowa. And I dragged her all over the country. So